part of the tragic cycle of the Middle East, and I've covered 4 wars between Hamas and Israel. In the last few hours, it tends to escalate, and we saw that yesterday, which is what made me think that the ceasefire was imminent. It's quite, counter-cyclical, but you would think normally if there's about to be a ceasefire that the sides have come to an agreement. It indicates the deep divisions and hatreds that exist, and that it's not a matter simply of suddenly goodwill. Both sides will stop firing because it suits them for the moment, but the longer-term conflicts, of course, are not necessarily resolved by any of this.
So under this deal, what are the expectations of Hezbollah and the IDF, and also what's the role of the Lebanese army and the UN peacekeeping force UNIFIL?
Basically, they're trying to go back to a framework of the UN Resolution 1701, which came in after the 2006 war, the last war between Israel and Hezbollah, which essentially creates a big buffer zone in the south of Lebanon, south of the Litani River. Now, Hezbollah breached that. Hezbollah has not adhered to that in those years since. So what Israel has succeeded in getting here is pushing Hezbollah back up to the Litani River. It gives them the buffer zone and allows Israel, as Benjamin Netanyahu said, to return the residents to the north of Israel. About 65,000 Israelis in the north of Israel evacuated down south to the centre of Israel to get away from the Hezbollah missiles. So it essentially buys peace for the people in the north of Israel.
What did Joe Biden have to say about the consequences of breaking this deal?
He made it clear that the United States would continue to back Israel should that happen. He did go on, though, to make the point that it's not just about this deal, that there needs to be the broader, the longer-term issues of the two-state solution. There has to be longer-term issues, and I think that's something that always gets lost in these various conflicts that blow up in the Middle East. People tend to look at them in the very short term with a very short focus. You need to look at it longer term, and you need to look at the occupation of the Palestinians in the West Bank, and that is a conflict that feeds so many of these other conflicts in the Middle East. The fact that for 57 years now, Israel has had a military occupation over those Palestinians in the West Bank. And things are sort of getting worse now with the Trump administration. Donald Trump's appointed Mike Huckabee, the former governor and TV star, to be the US ambassador to Israel. He said recently, "I don't even recognise the term West Bank." There is no such thing as occupation. So it looks like, although Joe Biden talks about a two-state solution, it looks like the incoming Trump administration is going to be more hardline, which in my view means more violence, more bloodshed.
What about here in Australia? What's been the reaction here? Well,
Penny Wong has welcomed it and said that she hopes that while there's a ceasefire in Lebanon, that there'll also be one in Gaza.
Now, what cleared the way for this, and why is it so different to Gaza, where a ceasefire has been elusive for so long?
Well, that's right. I mean, this is a relatively short war, the one with Lebanon and Hezbollah. And the situation in Gaza is infinitely worse than it is in Beirut and Lebanon. The Norwegian Refugee Council, their chief executive, recently went into Gaza and delivered a devastating review afterwards, said this is in no way a lawful response. He was talking about Israel's response in Gaza. It's no way a lawful response, a targeted operation of self-defence to dismantle armed groups, or warfare consistent with humanitarian law. What Israel is doing here with Western-supplied arms is rendering a densely populated area uninhabitable for almost 2 million civilians, and went on to say the families, widows and children I have spoken to are enduring suffering almost unparalleled anywhere in recent history. So the situation in Gaza is beyond catastrophic. So let's hope that this ceasefire now could mean that there's some relief there in Gaza as well.
And what work now needs to take place over this 60-day period to make this the basis for a lasting ceasefire?
Well, the Lebanese government too. It's a really dysfunctional situation in Lebanon because although the Lebanese government is in charge, they're the government, they have their own army. Hezbollah has been the most powerful army in Lebanon. And so this weird situation where a non-state army or militia terrorist group is more powerful than the government's army. So now the Lebanese army needs to, and government, come to an arrangement with Hezbollah that Hezbollah doesn't go rogue and doesn't just start firing missiles into Israel, because all Lebanese will pay a price if that's the case.